information. And be a lot of pressure on him to do something about it, make his life a lot tougher. But he jumped right on it and said, yeah, that would really be a good thing to find out about that.
Sue, you had
Yeah,
a
I was
question?
gonna say, when we were selectmen before, and this was
I got
starting,
thrown out when they first started this thing.
this
I
was
remember.
starting, Jeannie Forrester's husband is a scientist who does this kind of testing and analysis. And he was saying to be really careful, that you really need to monitor this.
Mhm.
You need to set up a program where it's being tested regularly. And it sounds like we really better get onto that and get that in the budget. Because we have to do our own testing, would be my opinion, not rely on.
I'm thinking that their permit from DES is imperfect for many reasons. But was there any testing required? They had a system fail, and now they get a new permit. I mean, you have to premise your failure on some failure of the topography as well as the engineering.
Well, I think you said that the same guy that's been involved at DES from the beginning with this thing is still involved.
Mitch Locker. Yeah.
So the good news is there's some knowledge of the history there. The bad news is they stamped the first one through and it didn't work, and now we're coming back to do another round, and you got the same guy reviewing it and approving
Not
it.
only that, but my understanding is that it was his idea. He was trying to spur Wolfboro into some kind of action. They were under court order.
Right.
They couldn't have any more
No more
sewer taps until
connections,
he
right.
solved this problem. And they seem to be not really going anywhere. And I think one of these have been tried in New Hampshire and one had been tried in Massachusetts. So he was saying, here's an idea. And then he wrote the environmental analysis. From my previous job with the U.S. Forest Service, I have a lot of experience with what's called NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act. And that was a very imperfect document. And I think the town of Tuftonboro was not noticed on the notice list, and it could have been stopped right there.
Right.
But
And there's
I wasn't even here then.
Right.
I mean, I would think there'd be a
What I read last
little
later.
peer review going on, but at any rate, we haven't been copied on the permit for this new system, I don't believe. have we?
No.
So we don't know whether or not there's testing requirements in the permit, which there should be. would
I
think.
agree with you, Sue, that we need to monitor this. And it should be, and now, the operator of the sewage treatment system should pay for it, okay?
That'd be great.
But
But it
there's a
shouldn't-
conflict of
shouldn't
interest
stop.
there.
If they don't pay, we should still have it done.
There's a conflict of interest if the operator of the system is the one that's selecting what gets treated or what gets tested.
So we have DES.
Well,
I mean,
right, and have an independent entity that actually is doing the testing. And, whether they pay for it or not is another thing. But as a town, we have a responsibility to understand what's going on. And as you said, Steve, from a standpoint of the traditional things that we test for in discharged waters, everything is terrific. That's good news. The pharmaceuticals, the personal care products, other things that may have some effects that aren't well understood, we don't know.
But I think this is an opportunity, given and they actually voted to go forward with this eminent domain proposal. But this is an opportunity for us to enforce their payment of the testing and the structure of the testing. And if they don't pay for it, then we'll put a lien on the town docks. I mean, we have an opportunity now to contractually obligate them to do something. And I think we need to have all of and that's why I wanted you to come here, and I apologize if it was confusing. I personally needed you to come here today if we're gonna meet with Dave Ford on Monday, because there's a lot of issues that, like the water quality issues that, we just need to be brought up to speed on, so we're not negotiating away.
I know,
something that's important.
Larry will be here Monday, and Larry feels, he wants to put pressure on, and I've been discouraging him and saying, we can get more by being a friend or a partner than we can by shouting across the boundary, so to speak, you know. And I think that's largely because we had such a good relationship with Dave.
And that's probably true.
And I didn't see the select board being a factor.
I think it's true that having a collegial relationship with Wolfboro is important, and having, common interests and goals and helping each other, that's great, and it is a perfect way to live. But when they do something like this without any discussion with Tuftonboro, I think we have to act. We can't just sit here and say, oh, they're nice guys, and we've gotten along in the past, and everything's gonna be fine.
It's not altogether true. When we went to this last field review, that was an opportunity to comment. The permit was going in, we knew about it, and Dave pointed that out, that we could comment if we wanted to, and he wanted to make sure we understood everything if we did want to make a comment, so.
And no comment was made?
I don't think you've seen a select board contact on this kind of stuff, but there has been plenty between Dave Ford and the Conservation Commission. So it could have, I think it certainly could have been done better, but that's the way it was done. And I don't know, I feel a little allegiance to Dave because he's been so open with us and
that's
Well,
wonderful.
I think that's great, but, let's go back to what you mentioned about the testing with the geological survey and his support for it. He doesn't get to determine whether it gets funded or not. And that's been taken off the table by the people he works for, okay? So whether he wants to do it or not, as a town manager and the Board of Selectmen dealt with their process, either there wasn't an understanding of all of this, or it was relegated to a lower priority and it didn't make the cut for inclusion in the budget, apparently. So it's, again, he's got to do what he can do with what he's given. And he can make the case for various things and express his support. And that's not to say that he isn't supportive of it. But at the end of the day, if somebody doesn't give him the money to do it with, he can't do it.
But I think they rely on him to give them direction as to where they're going. I mean, I get the feeling that
I think
this
that's
7-acre
true.
expansion is premised upon Dave's understanding of what he thinks should happen. So I don't think he's completely out of the woods as far as the direction this is going.
I think, I want to say this carefully, that there's probably a potential embarrassing thing in this, that it wasn't handled right from the beginning, the part over the line. So, why wasn't it handled properly? And I've wondered whether there's an agreement with the property owner there, some kind of an agreement.
So apparently not,
It's
because
negotiations.
Yeah.
Your dirty laundry's hanging out there, potentially hanging out there a little bit if you disclose everything. So I think that's probably in the back of some minds out there. And then the idea that it's a lot easier to fix something on your own property than it is somebody else's. You know, if it's your own property, you just do it. And you try to do it the best way, but you don't have to convince somebody else that that's the best way. Or you don't have to try to convince somebody else that you're gonna put it back the way it was, or, you know, it's just a whole lot cleaner. If I was on that side of the thing, that's what I'd be trying to do. I'd be trying to get control of that property.
On their side of the border.
Yeah, and just a little matter of disclosure, we own a small piece of Wolfboro.
I know.
Okay.
I know there's a part of my property up on Mount Pleasant in Wolfboro.
No, I didn't mean that. It was
Oh, the Libby?
Libby Park, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think that-
Little wedge on that.
I don't think we own that, actually. I think that's actually.
I think it's deeded to Tuftonboro. When that happened, there's no real recognition for it, but
Yeah.
it's there. So there's some precedent in a way, I guess.
Well, we have to maintain our boundaries, but
I know when it comes to conservation.
I think all they've done is to continue your metaphor there. I think all they've done is create more dirty laundry. They haven't solved their dirty laundry problem by going forward with that meeting last week on eminent domain.
I just so you got maybe understand why other people think a certain way. You know, that's information that I think I have a feel for. One other thing, there is precedent for one town owning property in another town.
Sure.
The part that I know about is a municipal watershed.
Right, Concord has.
But I don't know whether effluent disposal could fall into the same criteria or not.
No, I think there's plenty of, not plenty, but there's some evidence of takings by other towns in order to satisfy a municipal need. But it has to be the only thing they can do. And the only reasonable thing they can do. And I wasn't presented with any kind of evidence that they've done any exploration other than, let's just expand what we have here. And in order to change the boundary of the town, it's one thing to take land like Concord did for their water source up by the Blackwater Dam. That's just a water source that still remains in the town that it's in. The boundary changing, taking by changing a boundary line adjustment and making it part of Wolfboro, that you have to go to Concord for that. Our boundaries are cast in stone. They're sovereign. In order to change that, you need the legislature to do it.
And that's what happened down by Libby Museum years ago, when that farmer went to the legislature and got it changed to, there's a chunk that's
Right.
now in Wolfboro.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I just would like to emphasize again, Tuftonboro has different interests than Wolfboro does in this. The science that we need is different. It's more than just what it takes to get the permit and maintain the permit, which is what Wolfboro needs. We need to know if the water coming into 19 Mile Bay is deteriorating. And in what way? We need to know the new stuff. I've been to septic classes where they conduct them at nursing homes and you open up the tanks and look, and the medicines are unbelievable. I mean, it's pink in there, it's not
That's one of the
pink,
studies.
yellow,
that-
or brown, or green.
But that's not something we can expect Steve to do.
Well,
We
the
need to
town
hire
needs,
somebody to
we
do-
have to have scientists
Right.
who's taking the lead on this, a consultant who maybe it can be gathered by volunteers, but there needs to be a scientist who's
A protocol.
Oh, yeah,
yeah, setting up the
yeah.
protocol and
Right.
going through.
But I mean,
it's like the
once
water-
again,
water
with
samples on the
perfection, I mean,
website.
the lesson we learned at town meeting about warning. They had a public hearing on it, taking by eminent domain with no warning to us. We should have been able to put into our budget money enough to hire scientific talent to test that water. We figured to have a warrant article describing the issue. We don't have any of that.
Right.
So now we're always behind as we're trying to get forward. And I think it'll be interesting. Monday will be interesting. I think maybe one more
Are
thing.
you gonna have this election?
No, according to what I know, I think
Dave Ford is
coming.
coming to meet with us.
And maybe there's a selectman coming along with him, I hope so.
Yeah,
I doubt that.
Yeah, I doubt it too, which I find sort of insulting, but I took the time out of my busy schedule to go to Wolfboro and sit at their meeting and then testify at their meeting. You know, a little quid pro quo would be
maybe a
nice.
friendly phone call?
Their mom should have taught him good manners. I
Yeah.
shouldn't have to teach him good manners.
My guess is that that's not gonna get a selectman here on Monday. Now, I can do that, but I think let's let Dave present his
What he wants to do.
information and
Okay.
move forward from there. All right. Anything else for Steve?
Thank
I
you.
guess that's it.
And
Would you
Easter.
mind leaving that, Steve, for a day? Can we
Oh,
have that
yep,
for a day?
Yep,
Thanks. I just like to.
it's kind of piled so it doesn't tip over rather than being chronicle.
All right.
Chronicle.
Chronologically ordered. And I'll leave it with Karen. All right, so it's not disappearing to my house.
You could just put it
Right on your table.
back in the room there.
Yeah, sure.
Good.
You feel the energy, there's 2 more boxes of stuff in there. Some CDs you can put on your computer. Data.
All right. We have
Take care, Steve.
several items for signature. Let's get that before we go on to the other process. One is the contract for the Sodom Road Bridge repair, which was approved as an article at town meeting. It just needs our signature in order to move forward.
Well, I move we sign the contract with.
I'll second that.
Okay.
And what is the amount of money?
And
we're authorizing?
this is $67,000. And that includes about $20,000 in contingency money, so plenty to
Yes.
cover anything that can come up. All right. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
That just needs one.
It needs one signature, yeah. All right. Next, we have a letter of support for the Tuftonboro Community Solar Project. You had a chance to
Yes.
read this? You had a chance to review that?
I did.
Okay. And this is expressing support of the grant application going forward for the low and moderate income solar project. It's basically says that as a town, we're aware of it and that we'll actively encourage the appropriate siting if the grant is approved. So, do I have a motion?
For purposes of discussion, I move
Okay,
I'll
something
second it.
yeah.
under discussion. Are there any dollars that this
There,
will?
there are no dollars associated with it. And
Okay.
and the grant application and the grant process includes no commitment of town funds.
And is there a target date of when the grant has to be in?
The
application?
grant application has to be in next Tuesday,
Okay.
so it's a very, very short.
My questions are answered.
Yeah. Any-
No, I'm good.
Okay, all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. sorry.
Okay.
All right. And next, we have the software agreement with Avatar Assisting for online data hosting. This is an item that was included in this year's budget, and this is it's all the tax card information available online, is that right, Karen?
That's right.
And also hosting for the maps that we already have. It's not included updating maps, but
That's right, that's a whole.
that we're working toward for next year.
Yeah.
And this changed the, or do we move in second? Want to do that?
So, I'll entertain a motion. Do we have a motion? No?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. So, I will, I'll move it. Second?
I'll second.
Okay.
And is there a dollar figure that's cost us?
There is a dollar figure. It's $1,215.
And is this the movement that fundamentally changes the amount of information that's going out onto the interweb from our tax cards? I mean, I know we voted once before, not
Right.
too long ago about that.
Right. This takes the GIS information that we have currently on the maps that the Conservation Commission has up on the town website, right?
No, not quite there yet.
No?
This agreement's to put the tax cards up online and then use our maps we currently have. The last discussions I had with Mark Howard is he hasn't done his updating since the 2010 state one, so just temporarily the 2010 will go up with a disclaimer, just like we have now in the offices. The amount, the 1,215 is just for the mapping. Then the online tax card portion is another expense. I believe I put the total on the front for the prorated amount for this year because it's only April forward. So and to answer your question about mailing addresses, 2 out of 3 of you had voted to put mailing address information online last time. On a separate note, that was for people that had their own subscriptions to Avatar
Mhm.
independently, and that document has gone to Avatar and the mailing addresses are now available to those people. And that this would follow suit unless you wanted to do something different. But this is for people to go on free now. The town pays for it. People won't need a subscription and they can see what they see in the office here.
Well, I gotta restate my objection to putting too much information, or my position that we shouldn't put too much information out there on the interweb. And the inclusion of all of the tax card information on Avatar's website, I think is, I don't find it appropriate, but that's my position, personal position. I know you two voted against me the last time, but I'd want you to reconsider, if you would. And who does it benefit? It's not benefiting the resident, it's benefiting marketers. And I could really care less whether marketers are benefited or not, I think some people do.
I want to be sensitive to where you're coming from, because I think like you do. In my other job, in the last 3 months, there's 7 towns that I've used their system. And 4 of them I can just go online. The others I have to wait until there's someone in the building and drive to Middletown and pay my dollars. So I'm wondering if there's a compromise, if there's some information that's kind of private that we just don't include. I don't know if we can do that, so.
And I don't know whether the cat's out of the bag, if they've already done the movements based on the last vote.
Well, I guess my position is, based on my experience, what I stated before, which is that, and not, I don't want to say that we should do it because everybody else does it, but there are a lot of uses for this information other than marketers going on and getting addresses. And my guess is that a marketer is probably not going to harvest information off of the tax cards because it's a very it's a one at a time kind of process.
And to comment on that, my request, if I had to say a percentage, a quarter maybe are people that are looking for to send out mailers and things. The others are people doing research. If that helps at all.
I'm sure some whiz kid can figure out an algorithm to do it faster than the average human being. So I think it's a bad precedent. I'm not interested in the town participating in that. I just haven't been convinced that it's needed. So until it is, I'm gonna remain a no vote.
And what is the cost?
Actually, the total here is, which includes hosting the maps, that's what you have here on the front, $2,936.
That's the prorated cost for this year.
Right.
And maybe we could have Avatar come in. Is there a better explanation for Selectmen Albee that Avatar could give?
And this is not a one-time payment, correct?
That's right.
This is a hosting increase, right?
This was added to the budget for this year.
Right.
I've listened carefully to
Or you can vote to
what you
pass.
said, and I'm gonna move that we table this discussion.
Okay.
I'll second that and hope that we can invite Avatar in to explain it to us.
Okay.
So,
All right.
help me in.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Next signature item we have is the MS 232 report of appropriations actually voted. So we submit this to DRA within 20 days of town meeting.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Karen, would it be appropriate for the employee compensation forms to be signed today?
It doesn't matter, to be honest with you, she's already done payroll for next week.
Okay.
Phil, may I ask a couple questions, please, before you're done with the signature part?
Yep.
Well, simple question was, did you vote in favor of tabling the Avatar thing? Are you in favor of that? Or are you?
Yes.
Two, one?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other question is about the Swanton Road Bridge. I had the memo on the front.
Right.
And I can speak to it if you'd like, or you can read it, whatever you prefer.
I think we voted.
All right.
Well, there's more
We
questions I
did.
need help with.
So, let's see. All right, so your other question here, I'm sorry, is
That's okay.
can someone be given authority to act on the project throughout the repair? And,
Because time of the essence type of questions during construction.
right,
Yeah.
right. And,
Whether it be a selectman or Jack or.
I thought that's what we hired, the engineering company.
Are you talking a liaison?
we do have, HEB is gonna be administering the contract. But
He did say from engineering type questions, things that they focus on,
Mhm.
that would be HEB definitely. But for just, and I don't know enough about these types of things to speak to it, but he gave me, examples of questions that someone here at the town would need to answer. My mind's kind of blank on what things he mentioned, but
Yeah.
things that aren't
So this is-
engineering type questions.
This is stuff that would be appropriate for Jack to
Yeah.
be engaged in.
Yeah, and I just needed to get your approval for that. And also the contract, because you signed the notice of award today, but the contract needs to be signed. The contractor needs to go get insurance and a bond and so forth, and he will do so after he receives that notice of award.
Okay,
But then the contract needs to be signed.
Right.
Typically, at the same time, the contractor and someone from the town would sign it. Is that fine for Jack? Do you give Jack permission to do that with himself, or do you want to do that during a
No,
meeting on
that's the Board
Monday?
of Selectmen.
yeah, I think we,
Yeah, okay. That's one of the questions they asked me, so.
yeah, we do that at probably next week's meeting.
Let's
Right,
see,
the
can we
9th?
do April 9th? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right, April 9th.
Right.
Okay, all right, I'll put him
Right.
on the agenda for April 9th. Thanks.
Okay,
And so Jack can be the point day-to-day person
yes.
during the
yes.
project.
All right,
Thank you.
all right.
There's a signature thing there.
Oh. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yep. All right, so we have two other items in the other business. Sale, tax deed of property, and the warrant process. Are we ready to discuss the sale, tax deed of property?
Yes. Sure.
Okay.
We have a list, I think,
We have a list here of town-owned properties. And these are town-owned properties that were taken by tax deed, correct? Yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And there are 9 parcels on here. 2 on Union Wharf, 2 on Old Woods Road, 2 on Mountain Road, 1 on Light Pond, 1 on Sandy Knoll, and 1 on Beechwood Drive. And I think,
where's, I hate to say this, where's Beach
Oh, it's up Hidden Valley.
Valley?
yeah,
Sorry,
that's why, yeah, that's why
I'm
you
supposed to
don't,
know all the roads in town, but Beechwood Drive's escaped me.
yeah,
The only one on here that, are we discussing now, or how are we gonna?
no, it's, yeah,
Okay, the only one on here that I really think we need to take a look at outside of house lots is the Sandy Knoll Road lot. If that's the 20-plus acre lot that's up Sandy Knoll Road.
right,
I think we need to maybe hold on to that.
do what?
Hold on to that. It's gonna require further discussion. Put that out on the market if we ever do.
All right, and what's the,
It's-
what you're thinking on holding on to it?
Well, my thinking is that, first of all, it's on the far end of Sandy, or middle of Sandy Road, Mill Road, it's a little further than middle. So it's on a class 6, it's 20-plus acres, it's pretty decent. By looking at the soil maps, maybe a gravel deposit. I'm not sure